So we are now live. It is 2:30 in the morning in the Alto Adige in northern Italy. You can see from this fantastic picture that I have that it's a bustling town out there. I am here in the Cantina Tram. From this live shot outside, it's a bustling town. That's downtown Trum in the center of town. Things are going crazy there. And here we are in the middle of the Alto Adige, which is the red dot. Forgive me for one moment while I answer Kiersey. So the red dot on the map here shows you the Alto Adige, and the sort of pink area is Trentino. That's where we are. But we're back here.
Grandfather in 1970, and now since 7 years my brother, my mom and my dad and me are working all together, the four of us, in the winery. My brother is the winemaker. He has studied enology and wine growing in San Michele Alto Adige, and then he has done his double diploma in Geisenheim in Germany. And my mom, my dad and me, we're mainly taking care of the administration and the sales. The winery works 50 hectares right now. Those 50 hectares of vineyards are spread all over the Bassa Tesina, which is the main wine growing area in Alto Adige, with about 85% of the total planted vineyards.
So I just put a map on, which you can see very small.
Yeah.
But this is basically the Bassa. This is Bolzano, and you can see the Val d'Adige. You can see that it's a fairly narrow valley with the Adige River running through it, and you have a wall of mountains on one side and a wall of mountains on the other.
Right.
Just to give them an idea. And now we're showing a picture of your winery, and you can see the wall of mountains that forms the west side of the valley, very high, right behind your family's winery.
Yes, right. And what is most interesting about the valley, if we can maybe see the map again, is that we have a lot of different microclimates, we have a lot of different soils within this valley, and we have the vineyards are all on the slopes, and in the valley floor we mainly have apple trees, and only in the lower part, in the south, we have these special Pinot Grigio vineyards where our winery is located. And in these, this is one of the oldest wine growing, of the oldest. Alto Adige in general is one of the oldest wine growing areas in Italy, and also in the German-speaking parts. But the area around Cortina, which is a very small village but a historical Pinot Grigio growing village, is one of the oldest and most traditional for Pinot Grigio.
So I put a picture up which shows.
Yeah, this is the vineyard.
This is the vineyard. This is looking from the west to the east, which shows you it's a kind of narrow valley. And you can see how gravelly the soil is here.
Yeah. Basically, in Alto Adige, the soils are made of, formed by, of course, the valley is formed by the glaciers, by the rivers, and by moraines, and so we have a lot of sedimentary and gravel soils with different parts of clay and different other parts of soils, but the basic is that, and mostly in the lower part, in the southern part, where this Pinot Grigio grows, we have this gravel and sedimentary soil, which you can see very good on the picture over here. The Pinot Grigio that we're going to taste tonight.
So sure, I'll put a bottle shot up, and just let me say, Kirsi, I hear you. We have both working right now. Everything looks fine, but if there's a problem, just let me know, and we can go back to IMing for questions and answers. But anyway, so Inez, this is the Pinot Grigio that we're talking about?
So the Pinot Grigio that we are going to taste tonight is single vineyard Pinot Grigio. It's an Alto Adige DOC, and it's 2011 vintage. We have chosen a special vineyard, which is called, we call it the Block 15 within a bigger area that is called the Punkel. And we have always been vinifying the vineyard separately in the winery, and this special one has always given a particular expressive, rich and mineralic Pinot Grigio. And so we have decided with the 2009 vintage to vinify and to bottle this one separately and make a single vineyard out of this one. What is most important for the Alto Adige Pinot Grigio is that it combines the elegance and the structure, the richness, and I think that is, and the nice fruit in the nose, the expressive nose, that is what is most important for this Pinot Grigio in that case.
Can you talk a little bit about the winemaking here? Because this Pinot Grigio is very different than a large percentage of Pinot Grigio that people get in the U.S., which tends to be very high acid, very citrusy, very light. This is a much richer, more complex style.
I think this doesn't only depend on winemaking. Of course, it does depend on that too. But first of all, it depends on the soils that I said, the gravel and sedimentary soils, which gives this minerality. Then we have, then it's also the training system. It's all on Guyot. It's the yield per hectare is reduced, so we can get the more concentrated fruit. We also harvest this fruit a little later, so we can get the optimal ripeness and have a very structured and creamy Pinot Grigio. And then, of course, the Pinot Grigio is fermented only in stainless steel in this case, but we leave it on the lees for about 5 months. So this wine is only bottled before at Vinitaly, which is the biggest wine fair in Italy, and so we try to give the wine a longer aging in the tank on the lees, and then we bottle it. The wines also, like I told you today, these wines, these single vineyard wines, are not wines that you should drink within the next year or year and a half, because these are wines that have to develop a little bit on the bottle. So right now they're on their best way to develop and to open the bottle. But immediately after the bottling, this is a wine that basically what I wanted to say is that we try to give the wines the possibility to age and to show the potential of aging of an Alto Adige Pinot Grigio, Pinot Bianco, or whatever it is, of the white wines, of the red wines.
Which is probably pretty surprising to a lot of people, because you don't think of Pinot Grigio as a wine that you're going to age. I'm just going to put an image. This is an image that we took today. This is looking from the east side of the Alto Adige Valley to the west side and towards the southern end of the valley. So this is the prime Pinot Grigio region as you start climbing up from the valley floor. So how long would you expect this wine to improve in the bottle?
This wine is certainly best in the next 2 to 3 years, but it doesn't lose anything after even in the 4th year. So we have even older vintages at home, and these are really wines that have a good potential and that can age for. I mean, I would consider opening it now or within the next 1.5 to 2 years. That's certainly the best.
How long have you made this wine?
This wine, as a single vineyard, has been produced since 2009. So it's the 3rd vintage, as this is 2011. But the wine as a blend, and a big part of that blend has always been the Block 15, has been produced since my father is so since 20 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous wine. It's a very round, slightly soft, complex Pinot Grigio. It really shows the potential of the grape in the region, I think. And I just want to go around the table and ask each of you guys what your opinion, not of your wine, but what your opinion of Pinot Grigio is and the potential it has in the Alto Adige and what you feel it expresses. And I'll start with the Count Michael.
Well, as most of the people know, Pinot Grigio is one of the most also spread out wines from Alto Adige, from Italy in the United States. I can only talk from my personal, from my winery. We don't have any Pinot Grigio.
Not one?
Not one. But I mean, I like the wine, but it's I focus more on wines, on varieties.
This is the controversial part?
Like the Pinot Bianco or Sauvignon Blanc. So to me it's a great wine, but I'm not the person who says Pinot Grigio is Alto Adige. I see Pinot Grigio more for the Friuli area. But I know it's a little controversy, so the wines are good, and I'm sure you will all love them.
I'm sure. Wolfgang?
Yes, like Ines said, one of the most important varieties in the area, in Alto Adige, South Tyrol, one of the oldest planted, depending where you are. Areas there's more or less, like Michael said, in his area, it's not so historical. I would highlight out one point for the consumer, what's saying something similar for all Alto Adige Pinot Grigio. If you have an Alto Adige Pinot Grigio, first of all, it's a DOC appellation, what means that you need to have low yields by appellation or by law. And that's the biggest difference on the most Pinot Grigios in the market. Most of them are IGT level, and that's with higher yield. That's why they're so easy drinking and, like you said, very light.
Very good point.
So if somebody picks a DOC Alto Adige Südtirol Pinot Grigio, he knows that he gets some Pinot Grigio with more body, with more creaminess, with more structure, and a good minerality. So that's.
And you have to be careful because there are wines from wineries in the U.S. and the wineries make both a DOC Alto Adige Pinot Grigio and then another IGT Pinot Grigio, and the labels are very similar.
Yeah.
So sometimes you get a surprise with a bottle that looks like another bottle that you bought.
Yeah. That's, I think, that's what I would like to add to the.
And Andy, you're export manager for Franz Haas?
Yes.
So you can talk a little bit about Pinot Grigio as the difficulty or the ease with which you can introduce Pinot Grigio to a market, and how the U.S. market is doing with Pinot Grigio.
So we are producing mainly the main part of our white wine is Pinot Grigio as well, and when I'm going to every export market I'm going, people are very surprised about the structure, the complexity, the fruitiness of our Pinot Grigio, and as Wolfgang says, the DOC, the need of the DOC is that the quality by law and the yield is in a level that it expects. So and in US Pinot Grigio is very popular.
Of course,
it's we are mainly exporting an IGT in US, an IGT from the Veneto area. It's a winery from Franz Haas's parents, and but as I said, the Pinot Grigio is the Alto Adige Pinot Grigio is very well accepted.
is the U.S. the most important market for Pinot Grigio?
Yes, but there are also other markets that are expanding a lot. It's Germany, and it's also, I mean, other export markets in Europe, and also I think in the next years Asia will also grow, because Pinot Grigio is obviously a grape that is grown, like Michael said, in a lot of places, so it's very known, and I think it's also very accessible from the very clear fruit, but not very not very aggressive, but very clear. And then this creaminess and not aggressive acidity. I think this is very something that most of the wine drinkers enjoy.
I think so.
And there are different steps. You can start with an easy Pinot Grigio and go to
Move
a
your
higher
way
level.
up. This
And
is
that's
this is one of the things that about the Alto Adige it's not as crazy in the U.S. because you don't export all of your wines, but everybody here is absolutely crazy because typically there are 2, 3, or 4 levels of wine,
Yeah.
and everybody makes 4 or 5 or 6 different varieties of wine. So it's 4 times 6. Everybody's making 24 wines, more or less. That's the average probably for the Alto Adige. So on that note, we're going to move on. Here's a picture of the northern part of the valley. It's difficult to see here, but you can see there's a little hump in the middle. That's where Lago Caldaro is. And we're to the south of there. We're actually at Tramin in this fantastic green-framed winery. And you can see the view looking north from there. That's the Lago di Caldaro just north. It's just a blanket of vines covering the floor, covering the edges of the valley with apple trees on the valley floor. And we're going to be indulging with the Pinot Bianco from Tramin. I'm a huge fan of Pinot Bianco. Forgive me, but I drink more Pinot Bianco than Pinot
That's
Grigio.
fine. Don't worry.
And I think that it's the Alto Adige's got huge potential. I think it's really one of the great. I think Pinot Nero, Lagrein, and Pinot Bianco, for me, are the most expressive wines here in the Alto Adige. So Wolfgang, tell us a little bit about your Pinot Bianco. Tell us a little bit first about the history of the cantina, because very unusual in the Alto Adige. We talked about this earlier today. Lots and lots of cooperatives that produce wine at the same level as the private wineries, which is surprising for a lot of people because most people think co-ops, shitty wine, it happens. But here the wines are really the same quality, maybe different styles than some of the private producers. But can you talk a little bit about the history?
About the history,
Sure.
yeah. In the area, so we historically are the most southern German-speaking area, so we have a lot, culture-wise, a lot to do with the German-Austrian influence, and also
Very precise and punctual. And
yeah, that probably helps to manage all the people. And about 100 years ago, back to the Austrian-Hungarian period, the cooperative started, and has a historical background, or fact that the vineyards in Alto Adige are very fractionate. So there are a lot of owners with very small vineyards. So they can't make their own wines, they can't afford all the technical issues. So the idea was to get together, to have more power, to be bigger, and to make their own wine. So that started about 100 years ago here in the winery Tramin, like with other cooperatives in the area. To give you an idea, about 70% of the Alto Adige area is managed by cooperatives due to the fact of the small owners.
So I just went back to the map, and we can see Tramin is pretty much the center of the map. It's just to the left of the center.
Exactly.
And you actually joined with another co-op on the other side of the valley. So you produce wines that run from vines from one side of the valley right across the valley floor to the other side.
Yeah, we do the step over the valley, as in the bottom floor. We don't have any vineyards, only apple trees, and on both sides of the valley, on the hills, on the slopes, we have the vines between 700 feet up to almost 2,500 feet.
Oh, you're using feet now. You're getting fancy.
Yes,
I thought we were going to
okay.
talk about meters, but we got feet. So this is one of the fascinating things for me, because one of the reasons everybody produces all the grapes is at 700 feet you have the perfect climate for one grape. At maybe 1,000 feet, a different grape goes in.
Exactly.
1,200, a different grape.
Exactly.
And you can make a range of styles. So it's like going maybe 70 or 80 miles north-south just by going up and down in this valley.
Yeah, that's very important to have the right varieties and the right microclimate. So again, 100 years ago, about 10 people took the money in the hand and invested in a winery and started to do their own wines and sell the wine instead of the grapes. And what we're doing now, like Alto Adige, has a history of 20 years. Like before 20 years ago, the cooperatives also here did the same, like the cooperatives all on the world, a lot of bulk wine and a lot of easy drinking wine. Then with a new generation of winemakers, the potential of the area was recognized, especially for white wines, new plantings based on the microclimate. And now we can say that it's a high-end quality, survey, quality-focused winery with more than 200 owners.
And how many wines do you produce?
Like you said, it's about 10 to 15 wines on 2 quality levels, so it's about 30 wines.
30 wines. It's a lot of wines. I don't know how you market so many wines. I don't know how you make so many wines. You keep track of everything. But for a cooperative in particular, it's very important that you can do that because you have to take the grapes from your producers and somebody will have a little Chardonnay, a little Gewürztraminer, a little Kerner.
Yeah, that's right. Although we need to say it's very managed, so if an owner likes to do a replanting, it needs to be talked with the winery, with the winemaker who's in charge also of the vineyards, to decide what we need, in a sense, in this place. Not on a market-wise, but what we need to plant in this microclimate. So it's not that he says, oh, I like, I don't know, Kerner, and then he says to the winery, so now I have the Kerner, and try to sell it. It's not working that way. So it's very, like in a real company.
It's very cooperative.
Yeah. So the management decides, so here you need to put this and that.
And we talked a little bit today about how you ensure quality, because one of the problems with a lot of cooperatives is they pretty much pay at the same level, so the farmers just plant more, grow more, high yields to get more money, but you sometimes take the risk from the farmer to get the highest quality fruit.
First of all, it starts on, let's say, in a more emotional part and on a communication, to make sure that the growers feel that they own the company, that they're responsible for the success of the company. And once you are able to communicate that, you need to make sure that what you ask is also being paid back in a financial money base. Of course. So there's a quite complex system how we rate that, but at the end, to make it very, very simple, the better the quality, the more they get out of the vineyard. And there's a huge range between less than 10,000 euros per hectare up to more than 30,000 euros per hectare. So it makes sense to produce quality.
Of course.
And in certain cases, in the very top end vineyards, the company, the cooperative, takes the risk of bad weather conditions. So we say keep the grapes on the vines even if they provide bad weather conditions. And if you lose half of the harvest, the company takes the risk. Because the single producer can't take the risk because that vineyard is about 30% or 50% of its income. And if you lose the half of that, it wouldn't make sense for him. Yes. We understand it. So we say, even if you bring just 50%, we rate the quality and we pay you the regular.
So you take all the risk for waiting
because
longer.
For the company, it just makes 0.00 something. But it's very, very important to get the highest, most possible quality.
It's also good business. It keeps your members happy, which is a good thing. So we had a question, Pinot Bianco, Pinot Blanc, it's the same grape, it's just French or Italian, the name. We have another question, which we'll get to in a second. Let's taste the wine. Talk a little bit about what should people expect from your Pinot Bianco?
So first of all, Pinot Bianco is a very historical grape variety in the Alto Adige, not the oldest in the area. The oldest on the white wine is probably the Gewürztraminer. But I would say the Pinot Bianco is the more traditional one. It's the one that people uses to have a white wine. If you're talking Alto Adige, have a glass of white wine, it's
going to be Pinot Bianco.
Going to be Pinot Bianco. Pinot Bianco is a great wine due to his elegance, his delicate flavors, green apples, good nutty flavors, and it's a perfect food wine because it doesn't overpower the food. A perfect wine for delicate food dishes, not too aromatic dishes, for sure.
It's a very easy to drink wine, but it still has some character and complexity. Like I said before, I'm a very big fan. We can go around the table and give your opinion on Pinot Bianco, what you think of Pinot Bianco, what you like to see out of Pinot Bianco?
Well, I also love Pinot Bianco. We are lucky as winery to have vineyards also in Terlan. Terlan is known especially for Pinot Bianco and Sauvignon as very porphyric, quartzy soils, and gives the Pinot Biancos lots of minerality. So one of our favorite white wines is also Pinot Bianco, and I'm just a big fan of Pinot Bianco.
Yeah, I love it.
Sorry, more than Pinot Grigio,
That's fine. I hear that very often. But we also produce Pinot Bianco, so I personally I like Pinot Grigio, but I think the Pinot Bianco in Alto Adige has a wonderful, great potential for good, great wines, how it shows in a lot of wineries. But I think the difference, of course, is also that the Pinot Bianco is grown best only in certain areas and not everywhere, and so it's becoming something more special than the Pinot Grigio, slightly more special. And I think it can be a good alternative to the Pinot Grigio, but most probably it won't take the place of the Pinot Grigio. That's my opinion.
It's for sure more distinctive for the area.
Yeah.
Because it's not produced in
Yeah.
so much other areas.
Everywhere, yes, and not on the valley floor.
Pinot Bianco, to speaking about export market, for our winery, it's the more problematic variety because it's every importer says it's a little bit difficult to sell because people don't really know
What to expect?
Yes, exactly, and so it's rather difficult, but it's a really beautiful wine, and we France cares a lot about his Pinot Bianco, and it has a very good aging potential as well, and so.
Does anybody think that Pinot Bianco is better after a few years? Because sometimes I find Pinot Bianco fresh in the bottle can be difficult. Pinot Grigio is generally
That's
very
true.
easy.
That's true.
Pinot Bianco is tighter and leaner. I mean, is it a wine that everybody thinks gets better in 2 or 3 years?
Even more. We did a tasting of 10 years of our Pinot Bianco 2 months ago, and 2005, 2006 was really good.
I think it's more about the area and less about the variety. So the thing we're saying, Pinot Grigio is very easy drinking, Pinot Grigio doesn't age. Even
planting
that,
it all
it's not for me, it's not about the variety, it's more about how it's produced.
Yeah.
And if you take Alto Adige Pinot Grigio and Alto Adige Pinot Bianco on the same level, both can be aged. For sure,
Yeah.
if you have a very easy Pinot Grigio, that needs to be drunk in about a year or even better less. But for Alto Adige wines, generally a few years of aging potential you have with all the wines. At the very top end, they should be aged, like Ines said, a few years before they get drank.
Count, you were going to say something?
Even 10 years and older. I mean, we have a very good example again with the Cantina of Terlan, which is known for
wines.
very well aging white wines, and there especially Pinot Bianco. So you can get astonishing wines with an age of even 20 years.
And just Terlan does some crazy things, and every year they put, I don't know if it's 1,000 liters in stainless steel, and they bottle it after 10 years. Sometimes Pinot Bianco in 1979 was Sauvignon Blanc, which I don't know if it's been bottled yet or not, but they have so much confidence. And this is something that for most of the people in the U.S. is new. The idea that they're white wines and they're not Chardonnay and they can be aged is a very, I think, unusual topic, because most people in the U.S. buy wine, drink it right away. Some people have an idea that Chardonnay can age pretty well, but Pinot Bianco, Pinot Grigio, to hear that these can age is surprising.
And the beautiful thing is that those wines, they don't age as much, so they don't get old, but they mature really well. So even after 10, 15 years, you get a wine which is full of life. And that's the interesting
That's the
thing.
beauty.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of questions, but one question that I think is very pertinent right now is how chilled do you serve Pinot Bianco and Pinot Grigio?
For me personally, it depends a little bit on the age of the wine. The young wines, for me personally, I always serve them cool. But for example, the wines that have a little more aging, I can also drink them a little slightly warmer, so they get more out of the flavors and of the
More aromatics.
Yeah.
I would say for sure not as chilled as it's used.
In the U.S.? Out of the refrigerator, 40 degrees.
I don't know
3 degrees Celsius.
how it's at home, but in like bars or restaurants, they have it just 3-4 degrees. But
Yes,
that's
that's
maybe
crazy.
the issue of the restaurants. At home, I guess people just have it in the regular.
It's the same price, same price, same temperature, 3-4 degrees.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's under 40 degrees.
So
Maybe
for sure,
5 degrees.
Some easy drinking wines is the best. The cooler they are, the better they are because you don't.
Because they're not
get
very
that.
good.
But I would say in degrees, 14.
Yeah.
So it's pretty warm. So 14
Yeah.
is 26, 58, 60.
But
So it's-
right now we are drinking them at a nice temperature, I think. I
Yes.
mean, that's perfect for tasting. So
And then, like everybody likes personally, if you like it
Yeah.
chilled,
Drink it chill. If it's really hot outside and you want something refreshing, drink something refreshing. We had another question here, and this is a fascinating question. We're going to move from whites to reds in a second, but somebody asked, does anybody grow grapes on pergola anymore? Because pergola, of course, has been a very traditional trellising style. I don't really have any pictures. Well, I do have pictures. This shows the top of pergola trellises. You can see the X's. This is just to the north of the cantina here in Trumman. So why don't we just go through the line? And does anybody still have pergola? And do you like pergola for some grapes and don't like it for other grapes? We'll start with Andy this time to go this way.
We still have pergola, but they are disappearing from year to year. So we have, for example, the Lagrein vineyard is in pergola, and we mainly produce Pinot Nero, and from Pinot Nero we have just one pergola vineyard left. The rest is Guyot.
I think that new plantings are all on Guyot. The only variety was the Schiava, the typical easy drinking red wine, but till now was more, you can say, always on pergola, but I think even there now it will change to Guyot. It's first of all healthier for the grapes and easier to work.
we talked about it today, and
Absolutely.
my opinion is that for the Schiava, I think it's okay, but like Wolfgang said, for the work it's easier to put it on Guyot, but I think the Schiava, there's still a lot of Schiava on pergola. I showed you the Pinot Noir vineyard today that we still have one on pergola, and for the Pinot Noir it's not the best system to work on pergola, so we try to slowly replant everything on Guyot, which is Pinot Noir and Pinot Grigio and all the lower yielding varieties. For the Lagrein, it's, in my opinion, it's a discussion which can be more. Most of the new vineyards are planted with Guyot, but maybe on the Lagrein it could be even okay for a pergola. For a pergola, it's still good to go on. But of course, depends then on the working and on everything.
Of course.
Well, since the last 20 years, since I'm in charge of our winery, from our 50 hectares, I replanted 48. When I got it handed over, it was 100% pergola. Now we have only 10%, which is the Schiava on pergola. Everything else is Guyot system.
So for Schiava, do you think it's okay? I mean, you would replant it, but
It is okay because Schiava is gets very easy sunburned.
Oh.
So and also has bigger grapes, so they are quite good under the shade of the pergola. But I also had Schiava on the Guyot system, and it works also well. It's only our tradition.
Yeah.
We have to convert.
Well,
That's the most. That's right.
I think it's good to keep a little bit of pergola for tradition.
Sure.
You know, it's always
It looks good.
It looks good. It looks good. I mean, now you look at the valley floor, and we discussed this. All the apple trees, they look terrible. They used to be big, old, beautiful trees, and you look down, and it was a forest of apple trees So there's a little bit, tourism is important too. So we're going to move on. We're going to move on to a red, but first, as Wolfgang sort of said, we're in Tramin. This is, I don't know if it's the home of Gewürztraminer, the spicy grape from Tramin, but it's certainly where the name came from. Does anybody make Gewürztraminer? We had a question from the audience.
I think every one of us.
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
no Pinot Grigio, no Gewürztraminer.
No Pinot Grigio, no Gewürztraminer. Everything else, yes. But this is two varieties which I just decided not to grow. There is too many other wineries making great Pinot Grigios and Gewürztraminers, so I concentrate on other varieties.
But it's
But I think
second
I'm the
most
only
planted,
one.
yeah.
Or there's
Is it really?
not many wineries.
So
who
this is
don't
another
have-
fascinating thing. Gewürztraminer is hugely popular in Italy. We discussed this today. I think you and I discussed this. And the thing that I thought was very interesting was it was popular because people had no preconceived notion. They had no idea. They didn't think it's Gewürztraminer, so it's going to be sweet and spicy and low in acid, which I think a lot of people in the U.S. have that opinion because you bought inexpensive or cheap Gewürztraminer from other places, but the style here tends to be dry, has more acidity, brighter, less viscous, less weight than other Gewürztraminers. So if you haven't had Gewürztraminer from the Alto Adige and you think you don't like Gewürztraminer, you're wrong. So go and try 1, 2, or 3, and they make some fabulous late harvest sweeter styles as well. But now we're going to talk to Andy about Franz Haas's Pinot Nero. I spent an hour today with Franz. He's obviously in love with Pinot Nero. He's doing some crazy things. People might call him crazy for doing them, but they seem to be really spectacular projects. Can you talk a little bit about the history of Franz Haas, the winery, and then we can talk a bit about the Pinot Nero a bit?
Yes, hello, thank you, Greg. Franz Haas Winery now is a family-owned winery. We have lots of family-owned wineries as well in Alto Adige. Franz Haas was established in 1881. Originally, the family had 6 wineries, but they lost all of them by arguments because of heritage.
Are they Italian? They sound more Italian than Sudtirolese.
Yeah, and so Franz's father restarted in 1948 after the Second World War with half a hectare. And
It's just over, it's like an acre and a half.
Yeah.
Less than an acre and a half. That's how we restarted.
So very, very small. And now we have 55 hectares of vineyards, and 1/3 of the production is Pinot Noir. So, as Greg said, Franz, he's very passionate of Pinot Noir. He lives for Pinot Noir. For example, last year he produced his almost 700 different Pinot Noir. So every year he produced between 17 and 50 different styles of Pinot Noir, different vinifications, different altitudes, different soils, different treatments. And so
this to me is interesting because this is sort of, everybody sort of said this in one way or another. It seems like there's a new generation of people who, now that you're probably somewhat comfortable financially, are saying, okay, we grow Pinot Nero, and now let's find out where we grow the best Pinot Nero. And maybe we put Gewürztraminer where we used to have some Pinot Nero. So I think there's a lot of exploration, discovery going on, which is also surprising because the Alto Adige is not it's not New Zealand. You didn't start 30 years ago.
No.
But Franz is absolutely focused on finding the best positions, best spots for Pinot Nero.
Yeah, and in 2000, so more than 10 years ago, he started to go higher with the vineyards. And as you know, by law, since until July 2010, it was the limit in height was 500 meters for so it was forbidden to plant new vineyards or to extend vineyards over 500 meters. And but France, he wanted to do it, and when the authorities said so, we want to go against it, to sue you. He said, okay, I'm going to the EU to
In Brussels?
in Brussels to say you abuse your authority, and he believed in this in planting in high altitude because of the progressive climate changing. For example, the Pinot Noir needs cool climate, and in the typical and most located areas like Mazon, it's 350 meters, more or less 300 meters. It's getting warmer and warmer every year, and we have spectacular, very good results in the high altitude vineyards. And
This is high. This is 1,250 meters.
this year we planted, the highest is 1,150 meters now.
Okay. I was up there today. It's a beautiful spot. There's cows and a field and a vineyard facing south. We don't know about the wines yet. It's going to take a couple of years more to get some grapes and then to see. But we have the Pinot Noir he produces now. So where does the fruit for Franz Haas's Pinot Noir come from today?
So the Pinot Noir, this one we are going to taste is the classic line. The classic line is the main production of our Pinot Noir. So every vineyard is vinified separately. So France knows which vineyard can play with new oak, with used oak. The aging takes place in barrels, in new barrels, in used barrels, from new till 4 times used. The alcoholic fermentation takes place mainly in stainless steel, and a part in tonneau, and then the aging for 12 months more or less in barriques. And it is a very elegant Pinot Noir, fruity, black cherry, raspberry, and for me it's very typical to have the wild small strawberries we find in the forest, and very soft tannins
And good acidity.
and a good acidity, yes.
So this is I think this is probably pretty typical of Alto Adige Pinot Noir. It's not as heavy or intense as a lot of other regions. New Zealand makes Pinot Noir, which is sort of similar in a way, but it's much fruitier and softer. And then, of course, California and Oregon have much bigger wines. So this is sort of, if you're going to find Pinot Noir that's very medium weight, lightweight outside of Burgundy, this is probably the next step. Might not be quite as good as Burgundy, but it's also less expensive. So it's in that style,
Absolutely.
like a village Burgundy.
Yeah, and people are always very surprised about the color when we pour our Pinot Noir.
I think, you poured me the rosé.
Almost, yes. But they are really surprised about the fruitiness and the potential of the Pinot Noir, the Alto Adige Pinot Noirs.
So we can go around the table. Everybody makes Pinot Noir, I think. Yes.
Yes.
We're good there. So talk a little bit about what should people expect from Alto Adige Pinot Noir.
Like Greg mentioned, so the Alto Adige Pinot Noir stylistically is more feminine. Pinot Noir not the masculine, but they don't always have to put the big thing in. Some of the time also the delicate, elegant things may keep longer than
They might keep longer, yes.
the big ones.
Absolutely.
So
Less gravity.
Yeah.
Basically in Alto Adige we have those 2 areas that are the most known. We have some other different areas, but Glen and Mazon above Enya and Montagna are the most known areas, and the most vineyards concentrate on there with the Pinot Nero. And for me personally, the elegance is absolute the highlight of our Pinot Noirs. And like you said, they may be a little cheaper, but they come very close to the Burgundy style. And so that's what we focus on, and that's what we want to do.
To me, Pinot Nero is the most challenging variety in the world. You see that there is only particular areas in the world which are really good for Pinot Nero.
It's very few.
So we are lucky enough to have some of these good vineyard sites here in Alto Adige. We as winery, we don't have as much, and we are not so experimental with Pinot Noir as Franz Haas is, but also for us it's a very important variety, and we focus a lot on Pinot Noir, and we love it, and we bring it to the world.
So we have an interesting question. I don't know how we're going to answer this, but we're going to start here. We're going to end up with you, Count, because you'll have a very interesting answer. But we had a question out there. Barrels, what kind of barrels do you use for aging? And I'm sure everybody uses a variety, maybe variety of woods too. But is there anything that's predominant? I mean, most of you, I believe, will use mostly French oak.
We use mainly just French oak, only French oak. So, and from new till 4 times used, as I said.
Same for us on that point. What I would like to highlight is for sure the barriques for the red wines, but it's the most traditional way, and what we use for the white wines and what we use more and more are the big ones like we see here with 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 liters. And it's also the old style.
It's the old style, it's new again.
And it's new again. It's what they're saying. I don't know if it's true after 2,000 years, but even Romans, when they came and passes the area, that's the area where they found to storage wine in barrels.
Here?
Yeah.
Really?
That's
the story?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
I didn't
the
know
story.
that.
And
That's
because
not a story.
That's the truth? That's the history?
some historian wrote it down.
Yeah.
He probably didn't live that time, but
That's-
Seems to be, yeah.
That's
yeah.
fascinating.
Before they only had the chalk, or the how you say the vase.
The vasen?
No,
The base.
The clay
the clay
and the animal
everything
skin?
to use to storage the wine.
Yeah.
And when they passed here, they found the barrels. We are lucky enough
This
to have
barrel right here.
a lot of forests, so it was the easiest thing to storage wine for here.
And Inez?
We use barrique and tonneau we do ferment basically everything in stainless steel. Only the Chardonnay and the Pinot Noir Reserva are fermented also in oak. So we make an open fermentation in open barrels, and after that they are aged in barrique for about 18 months. The barrels are all medium toasted, so we try not to exceed with not to exaggerate with the intensity of the wood, but it's all French wood again.
So Count, I was outside the winery today, and you do something a little different than anybody else that I've heard of.
Well, we are lucky enough to have on our estate not only apple trees and vineyards, we also have forests, and we are lucky enough to have a forest close to the winery, which has also a certain amount of oak trees. So some of our barrels from our own oak, from our own estate, to express the territorial character even more. We, after cutting them in winter, we season them in our courtyard for about 3 years.
So I have a picture up. I took a picture. Each year's harvest,
Yeah.
there's staves, they're stacked up.
Exactly.
Air gets through, water gets through.
And so after 3 years of aging the oak, we bring them to our favorite cooper, and he makes the barrels after our necessity. He tastes our wines. So we also use some French oak, some German oak, some Austrian oak, but we are lucky enough to have also barrels from our own oak, and that's my point of view. We ferment and age every of our white and red wines in oak.
I have some
But
pictures here.
It's bigger oak barrels for the white wines. There's only one wine which is a dry muscat, which is partly in stainless steel and oak. Everything else is oak.
The image that I have up is the larger format barrels for your white wines. I took a picture of that today.
But I have to say that you won't find any oaky taste in our wines. Better possibility to age well and to be very alive.
So part of your whole philosophy, you practice biodynamics.
Yes.
So and you have chickens in the vineyard and goats are the malga today, but they'll be in the vineyard and you take wood from your forest. So can you talk a little bit about the effect, what you think biodynamics has done for you?
It changed our life.
This is not a commercial. Send me $20 and it'll change your life too.
No, I have to admit that you can't work biodynamic. If you are convinced to live a way of homeopathic medicine or biodynamic living, then you can also work like that and then it will be of success. So it took quite a time also to convert our estate, because I'm not alone with my family. We have about 50 hectares of vineyards and another 60 hectares of apple trees, and the whole estate is converted to biodynamics. So to be able to work with all my stuff in this way, we had to do a big training, and it was for 4 years an intensive training for the family and the whole staff, and we are still every year going to courses to go to the depth and to the foundations of biodynamic living and working and growing and winemaking, to get as result fine and elegant wine.
Fine and elegant wines. And 2009 was the first vintage for certified biodynamic wines, is that correct?
Yeah, with 2009, all our wines were certified biodynamic.
So let's talk about this Lagrein, which in many ways is the most important red wine in the Alto Adige, I think, because you have it no place else. Pinot Noir is very easy to compare to California, New Zealand, Burgundy. Lagrein is Alto Adige Lagrein, so it has a very distinct identity. What do you try to get in your Lagrein? What should people expect?
First of all, Lagrein being one of the two indigenous varieties from Alto Adige, basically for a very long time you found it in Bolzano and the surroundings of Bolzano. So this was the capital of Lagrein. But there is quite few vineyards in Alto Adige which have the right soil, mostly sandy soil for Lagrein. And to me, Lagrein's style also in the last 10, 15 years has changed a lot in our area. The Lagreins are not so rustic and not so heavy anymore. You now find Lagreins with lots of elegance, with lots of finesse, with not oaky taste. So it's just a new style of Lagrein, and I would say it's maybe some other varieties have more potential, but Lagrein is the most special variety in reds for Alto Adige.
Ines, what do you think of Lagrein?
I think the Lagrein is a great variety, and as Michael said, maybe from the potential of being a big wine, like a big Cabernet or a big Merlot, the Lagrein, there might be other varieties that are more, they're better for that. But the Lagrein is certainly the uniqueness, and also what I like about the Lagrein is that it's never a wine that is made round and for everybody, but it's always kind of spicy in the nose, and it has some
angles. It's a little angular.
Yeah, and that's what I like because it makes it more unique, and it's not the normal red wine that everybody likes, but it's something special, and that's what we should go on doing. And I also think the Lagrein will be the wine that in the next years from the reds will grow the most, and it has grown in the last year, and it will even get more known all over the world, and hopefully for us, because I think in general for Alto Adige it's very important.
I think so too.
Great fruitness, nice acidity, good barbecue, and it's the right wine for summertime. And it's warm. It's not the heavy. It looks like
It's pretty.
like high
It can be pretty black
concentrated
sometimes.
marmalade wine, but it's not like it doesn't taste like it looks like. It has this
No.
fresh and easy
Lightness.
lighter red wine. Yeah, I mean the mountains come back in the wine. See, yeah,
These are
this is
mountain.
it,
Ultimately, we're going to get to that in 1 second. But ultimately, all these are really mountain wines. But Andy, what should people expect from Lagrein? Do you think, or what do you like in Lagrein?
I like the fruitiness as well. It's very, as Wolfgang said, very easy to drink, and people when we present it outside, and we present it every year in US, it's very well accepted, and people are very surprised about potential and the fruitiness and the easiness to drink of the.
It's easy to drink, but it's not a simple wine.
No.
Because there are lots of warm climate Cabernets, some that are easy to drink. But this is, I think you hit it on
That's
the head.
what
It's
I
a little
wanted-
angular.
Yeah.
It fights just a little bit.
And basically the Lagrein has smooth tannins, very soft in the mouth. That's what makes it easy to drink. But what I wanted to say is the particular.
For me, it's the acidity, the minerality,
Right.
which again is mountain wines. I think
Yeah.
the most important thing to understand here, we'll go back to the map a little bit, is that this valley has mountains that are, what are they, 1,500 meters on both sides?
No,
Yeah.
more. I mean,
More.
the uniqueness of the area is that we have vineyards on high elevation up to 800, 900 meters.
Even 1,000.
since, decades. And what's unique, like you see in this picture, is that it doesn't stop on that level. It doesn't stop at 2,500 feet. It just continues to rise up to more than 6,000 feet, and the cool air staying on top of the mountain falls down every night, making an important difference between day and night temperature.
And it's interesting because we think it's a mountain region. Some of the grapes, the Pinot Nero's cool climate grapes, but it gets hot here. During the day, it's easy to get, I don't know, was it 40 degrees last week?
We had 38 in the last weeks, but that was
That's
a very top.
as high.
Yeah.
So,
Like last year we didn't have such a hot
so
summer.
but it still gets to 34, 35.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hot during the day, and then
still-
the cold air just falls down from the mountains at night, refreshes the grapes, keeps them healthy, keeps them bright,
Keeps the acidity.
keeps the acidity. And then the soils here, you've got a combination of dolomite, which is the white rock, porphyr, which is the red rock, some clay that washes down, some sands. So it's a very complex type of soil too. So there's a lot of variety of terroir.
Greg, I'm sorry, but you introduced me by oak, and I didn't get the chance to talk about my history.
Oh, of course. So a little history.
Just 2 minutes.
Okay, a little history
Just
of
2
Manincourt, the
minutes.
winery.
The name of the winery is Manincourt. Our family produces wine since about 400 years. But
So it's a
for
new
long
winery.
For a long time, we also sold grapes to other people. So the relaunch was about 20 years ago, not even 20, it was 96, since the Manincourt label is on the market. I don't want to make it too complicated and too long. We have our vineyards, especially in Caltern, basically known for red wines and for Schiava.
Caltern is the small lake here.
Caldaro, where
and,
the small lake
and
is.
above. So there's a sort of a plateau above the lake.
Yeah.
Towards Caldaro, towards Caltern, it rises up a little bit.
And the other part of about 10 hectares we have in Terlano, where basically our white wines come from.
And that's basically the extension of this valley.
About 10 miles, 10
To the
12 miles away
northwest.
to the northwest, ideal soils for white wines. So I don't want to take too much of your time, but I wanted to have
Absolutely,
my chance.
absolutely. And in Tehran, the expositions are very south, slightly southwest. Beautiful place for white wines.
Yeah.
Great soils, retain a lot of heat sometimes because they're rocky soils. So very well adapted to growing wines with finesse and elegance. So we're going to wrap it up. We're pretty much done here. I just wanted to give everybody one last chance to say something about either your winery or the Alto Adige or something else. So Andy, we're going to start with you. What's the last comment you want to make to people?
Well, thank you for being with us. I think we have said a lot about wine, about the wineries. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for being with us, and hope to see you in the US. Thank you.
Wolfgang?
Yes, for me too. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for joining us, and I hope it was interesting enough to try some Alto Adige wine at home, and this fruitiness and acidity and minerality from this cool climate. Wines from the northern Italy, south.
And it's kind of funny because all these German accents here, and we're in Italy. Inez?
I want to thank everybody for the time and for you, Greg, and it was great to present the wines, and I think there has been a lot of there has been done a lot in the US in the last years for the Alto Adige wines, but I think there's still a lot more to do, and so hopefully in the next years we can even bring some other varieties more in Pinot Bianco and some other wines. So thank you.
Count?
Okay, enjoy Alto Adige wines together with us. We come and visit you once, twice, 3 times a year, so enjoy the wine with us.
Yes, and might follow us on Facebook so you know all the information.
Yeah. Follow everybody on Facebook. Absolutely, very important.
When the next event will be held in the US.
Everybody, all the users are thanking you guys in the chat. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to tell everybody that for me these wines are very special. They challenge your opinions of wines, particularly the Pinot Grigio, Pinot Bianco. You don't know what you're missing by not trying them. The Lagrein is a red wine that I think is fundamental for people to understand red wine. It's a beautiful mountain red. You should try these wines, but what I would say is that you should probably not try them at home. You should get on an airplane and you should fly here, because this is one of the most beautiful wine regions on earth. These little pictures don't do the region justice, but you drive up this little valley and you've got these gigantic mountains on either side. The valley's very narrow. Everything's green and beautiful. The people are very friendly. There are beautiful hotels everywhere. I love being here, as you could probably tell. So I would encourage you guys, if you really wanted to learn about wines of the Alto Adige, get your butts over here. I'm sure everybody would be very happy to see you, to welcome you. You can try 30 wines at every winery. In 2 days you'll try 800 wines. But it's really a great time. And that's all I've got to say. I'm really excited that everybody joined us. I think the wine showed very well. It's a world-class wine region that should be on everybody's radar. So on that note, folks, we'll check one more time to see how the piazza's doing. It's bustling out there, very, very busy. We're in Schramen, the city that doesn't sleep, at 3:33 in the morning. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye, folks. Thank you very much.
Bye.